Yes, so our first storyteller tonight is Anna McKeown. Anna is a fiber artist and comedian living in Nashville, Tennessee with her husband and 2 children. In her various artistic practices, she explores her identity as a birthing person, caregiver, and wife through artistic mediums traditionally associated with femininity and domestic craft. This is Anna's 3rd story. Welcome, Anna. It's good. Thank you. All right. People in my small town in southern Illinois called me artsy. I hate this term, artsy. It's in the same category as bless your heart. It's just an incredibly nice way of saying you're weird and you're never going to make any money. People call you artsy when your family doesn't get you because you're weird and dramatic. When I graduated high school, I couldn't wait to be in college where I could finally be around people who understood me, peers who enjoyed the same things as I enjoyed, and professors who would appreciate my talent and teach me all that I was lacking in my rural hometown. I began my Bachelor of Fine Arts in fall of 2009. After a difficult first semester, where I was more homesick than I wanted to admit, we freshmen were asked to create a piece of art that helped our fellow classmates get to know us better. Tell your story in the confines of this 16 by 20-inch piece of foam core and write an essay about what inspires you to accompany it. I was thrilled about this project. I love making collages. I once decoupaged an entire wall of my bedroom, and yeah, I did get in huge trouble. I went straight to my dorm to surf the web and collect all the images that I needed. Google, Julie Andrews, Sound of Music. Google, Virgin Mary, Holy Card. Google, Saint Teresa of Avila, Holy Card. Google, Star Wars. Google, West Side Story. Google, Snow White. Google, Bart Simpson. Google, Meet Me in St. Louis. I ripped up an old book and glued the pages to the foam core. I used watercolor over the top of them and created a textured landscape of cartoonish green hills and bright blue sky. I carefully cut out my Googled images and scanned photos from my childhood. I was so inspired and had so much momentum, I stayed up all night working and went to bed as the sun was rising, one of my first creative flows. I had to wait an entire week to drop off my work on the due date. I was ecstatic to give a short presentation about what I had made. It wasn't a critique format, we were just sharing what inspired us. I wrote what turned out to be my first artist statement about my family and how much my upbringing and family influenced my artwork. I picked up my project a couple of weeks later, happy to find an A attached to the back of my collage and accompanying essay. I couldn't wait to hang it in my dorm room. I put my prize collage under my arm and walked upstairs to my next class, Figure Drawing 1. This was not one of my favorite classes. I realized fairly quickly that I didn't actually have a real talent for drawing, or by that I mean to say, it was made apparent to me by my instructors that I did not have a talent for drawing. The figure drawing professor was notoriously tough, unnecessarily tough. He spoke in a manner that made you believe he was from the most elite echelons of society and that he was likely an all-knowing being sent here to smite all artsy folk to make room for real artists with real dedication and real talent. This class and all studio classes were a grueling 3 hours long twice per week. Over the course of the class, we would work our way up to longer poses. This drawings became increasingly detailed. After a 15-minute break, we would end the class with 1 to 2 long poses that lasted about 45 minutes apiece. The model would sit and we would draw them in detail, all while our professor would be hovering over us, critiquing us, making examples of us, mocking us, and performing self-aggrandizing monologues about everything from solo art exhibitions to the Music City Marathon. I was terrified of the studio class and I dreaded it with every fiber of my being. I would simultaneously be bored and in fight or flight mode for the entire 3-hour class. I made it to the 15-minute bathroom break that particular day. Halfway done, I placed my drawing materials next to my precious collage, which was propped up against my desk. After my break, I walked into the room and I passed the trash can. I saw something familiar out of the corner of my eye. Julie Andrews was peering out from underneath a pile of ripped up papers. My stomach dropped. I moved the destroyed drawings out of the way and my eyes welled with tears as I discovered my collage bent in half in the trash can. A loud pop jolted me out of my panic attack. Pop, rip, crumple. My professor was working his way around the room, ripping, folding, and trashing student work, all while mumbling, "Ugh, these students leaving their work here, it's garbage, I'm sick of all this trash." He picked up another student's 16 by 20-inch foam core board and broke it over his knee. Pop! He walked over to where I was standing and shoved the newly deemed garbage into the round plastic barrel. Julie Andrews disappeared into the depths, never to be seen again. Much like my collage, I was crushed. I missed my family more than ever, but was suddenly ashamed of where I had come from. My artwork, my artist statement, what my art meant to me, was at the time about my childhood and the dark, mystical landscape of Southern Illinois. I spent the next 4 years searching for meaning in my work, and I came up with little inspiration. I pinned my self-esteem to the approval of this drawing professor. The occasional, nice work sustained me through 3 more years of intense insecurity and self-loathing. I never did get his approval. For many years after graduating with my BFA, I struggled to make things that I liked and that I was proud of. I would often share my work, not because I liked it, but because I felt like I needed to prove to others that I was still making things. I didn't want people to think that I failed. A few years after I graduated, I was invited by this same art professor to be a panelist in the junior reviews for the art students at my alma mater. I was absolutely ecstatic to finally get his approval on something. When I showed up to the review, he saw me and looked a bit confused. He asked how my rented studio space was. I don't have a studio. He asked me how my painting practice was. I don't paint. We both realized at that moment that he had made a mistake. He thought I was a different Anna. But I was just this Anna. How disappointing. At the end of a long day of student reviews, he said, "You know, you actually did a good job." His half-hearted comment made me feel so small, even smaller than I did during my college years. His look of disbelief as I impressed him made me feel sick to my stomach. That was the day I stopped making artwork that I imagined he would like, and started making artwork for my own personal enjoyment and exploration. I started making work influenced by my family and where I'm from. In many ways, I've become that girl in her dorm room cutting and pasting life onto a poster board. But I'm not that girl anymore. I'm older and wiser and more complicated, and most importantly, I'm happier. I have layers of creative interests that intertwine in ways that don't have to make sense to other people, especially not to my old drawing professor.
Thank you so much, Anna. That was beautiful.